You are now listening to the Daughter to Daughter podcast with your host, Shaniqua King, where we heal from trauma in the presence of God. Join me as we embark on a healing journey that encompasses the spiritual, mental, and emotional work necessary to overcome past trauma in the presence of our Father, learning to lay it down at His feet and in turn receive restoration, wholeness, and healing. When you know whose you are, you know who you are, and you know what you have. Welcome back to another episode of the Daughter to Daughter podcast. So, I'm stirred up. I am stirred up, y'all. I'm stirred up because God just gave me this afresh. I was actually recording a different episode, and something about it, I was just like, all right, maybe it's not the time for this, Lord. And so I was like, and I was praying, not concerning the episode, because I had put, the mic away and everything. And I was just praying because of, this is the noonday watch. So I was praying in accordance with the watch. And I began to pray about faith and the faith to remain, and how I thought about Abraham. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, the faith to remain. And so get y'all Bibles out. Y'all already know. Take those Bibles out. We're going to turn to Hebrews 11. And I think a lot of people read Hebrews 11 talking about faith. But specifically, I want to talk about verse 8, where it says, by faith, Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to the place which he would receive an inheritance. And he went out, not knowing where he was going. By faith, he dwelt in the land of promise as in a foreign country, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. Verse 10 says, for he waited for the city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. So I'm going to pause right there. And I think about Abraham and how Abraham is considered the father of faith, right? Abraham did not have a track record for God. At that time, he couldn't open up. There was no Bible to open up. He didn't have a track record for God. He couldn't say, you know what, God? Yeah, because I seen you do X, Y, and Z before. So, of course, I trust you. Of course. He just had the faith to believe that if who I'm hearing from is the God who created the heavens and the earth, and he's telling me to leave my father's house and to go to a land that I do not know. That's Genesis chapter 12. Starting at verse 1, it says, now the Lord had said to Abram, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. And then he goes on to tell him the blessing, the promise over his life. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Verse 4. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Y'all, I want to pause right there because this is mind-blowing to me. When I thought about this, mind-blowing. Abram was 75. Now, I want you to think about the people in your life who are 75 or up, who are, older. And you know how old people are just planted. They stuck in their ways. They're unmovable. Some of them are very unmovable. I think about my grandma and how my grandma is not leaving her house. She is not leaving her home. Her home is her home. It's paid for. It's her home. She's been here. She's been there for decades. She's been in that home for decades. She's raised generations in that home. She ain't leaving her home. She's just about the same age where God told Abram to leave. And so at 75, Abram left It says he departed as the Lord had spoken to him. Now, we don't know if he questioned God, if he, God, you sure? I'm not really sure. Let me just, let me sort some things out first, and then I'll get back to you. The Bible doesn't say, Abram did any of that. It says, so he departed as the Lord had spoken to him, which reminds me of what I was just reading in Matthew when Jesus called the first disciples, and it says that Jesus said, follow me and I will make you fisher of men. And it says they immediately dropped their nets and followed him. There was no delay in their response. They immediately. And so now reading this chapter of Genesis 12, with Abram, it says, so Abram departed as the Lord had spoken to him. God said, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house. Get out. Get out. Get out of your father's house and go to a land that I'll show you. Abram had absolutely no idea where he was going. He got up. It said he departed as the Lord had spoken to him. God didn't tell him where, how long he was going to be there, who all going to be there. He just departed. He got up. That's immediate obedience. I pray that we also have the posture of immediate obedience, asking no questions. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Just that's it. That's it. Yes, Lord. Yes, I'll go. But we have a habit, again, of asking all these questions, y'all remember that on YouTube? Asking all these questions. We have a habit of questioning God. If God said it, do it. That's it. Just trust him. But let me not say we, okay? Because I'm not about to speak that. Some of y'all got trust issues. Some of y'all got trust issues because of the trauma you experienced with people. Because of the relational trauma you've experienced. Because of the trauma that you've experienced with your parents. You have trust issues and you're projecting that onto God. He can be trusted. You know how I know that he can be trusted? I don't just know it personally. But look, Abraham did not have a track record for God. He didn't have a track record for God. Yet he said nothing. He left. He just did. It says he departed. Think about where Abram came from. He came from a family of idol worshipers. His father was an idol maker. He created idols. God needed to uproot Abram, because his name was Abram before God changed his name to Abraham. God needed to uproot him from where he's been planted for decades. He was 75. I can't get over that. He was 75. God uprooted him from his father's home, from his family. And Abram went willingly. It said he departed. He was obedient. He had the faith to believe. He had the faith to believe. So now let's go back to Hebrews 11, where it says, by faith, Abraham obeyed. He obeyed when he was called to go out to the place which he would receive an inheritance. And he went out not knowing where he was going. But by faith, he dwelt in the land of the promise, as in a foreign country, dwelling in tents. So that's what he would do. He would pitch a tent. And here's where the title of this episode comes in: faith to remain. Abraham didn't just need the faith to leave, the faith to go. He needed the faith to remain. He needed the faith to remain there. It says he dwelt. By faith he dwelt. That means he lived there. He stayed. By faith he dwelt in the land of promise. He didn't just go by faith. He didn't just leave by faith. but he stayed there. He remained there. You don't just need faith to get out of the boat. You need the faith to stay out of the boat. Lord, if you're calling me out the boat, give me the faith not just to get out, but to stay out of the boat, to not go back to the boat. The children of Israel in the wilderness, we could say that they had the faith to leave Egypt, but did they have the faith to remain out of Egypt? Because we know that in the wilderness, they did a whole lot of complaining and grumbling and a whole lot of wishing to go back to Egypt. And so, Lord, give me the faith. Give me the faith to not just be obedient and do what you said, but to remain, to continue. Give me the faith to continue. Give me the faith to endure. When it don't look like what you said, when I get to the land that you sent and things start, going left and it's not what I thought, give me the faith to endure. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. There's nothing for me there. What is for me there? There is nothing for me there. There is nothing for me back there. I'm not going back. So give me the faith to remain. Give me the faith to endure. So I want to go back to Genesis 12. And if you keep reading, Genesis 12:10, it says, "Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to dwell there, for the famine was severe in the land." So I'm going to pause right there because I wonder, is this something that God told him to do? Did God tell him to leave the land because there's a famine? You know what? I see that there's a famine. Oops. I didn't foresee this. Yeah, maybe you should just go to Egypt. So I wonder if this was a God move, a God-led move, or was it a flesh-led move on Abram's part? So if you continue to read on, it also says how they lied to Pharaoh. And I'm just thinking about, like, when we make decisions in our own flesh, it's so easy to continue to make decisions in our own flesh, to do what we think is best instead of going back to what the Lord said. We make decisions in our own logic, in our own understanding, in our own limited knowledge, instead of relying on, what did the Lord say? What did God say? God, what do you say about this? I know what I see. I know what I feel, but God, what do you say about this? I know I'm seeing that there's a famine in the land. There's a famine in the land, but God, what do you say? Are you telling me to leave? I'm even thinking about Elijah and how there was a famine, right? There was a famine in the land, and God sent Elijah to a brook, and he said, stay at this brook and you will have water to drink, and I will send the ravens to bring you food to eat. And he remained there because he had a word from the Lord. He remained there. And when the brook dried up, he waited until he got another word from the Lord. And the Lord told him to go to the widow's house. But until then, he remained where God first sent him, because he had a word to stand on. He had a word to hold on to. And he did not go until the Lord gave him another word. And so wherever God called you, remain there until he tells you otherwise. Until he stop trying to make decisions with your limited logic, with your human logic. Because the things of God are not logical. God doesn't operate based on logic. He doesn't operate based on logic. The things of God are supernatural. It's going to defy your logic. You know what? It makes sense to do it this way. It makes sense to do this and to not do that. Yeah, sure. I'm sure it makes human sense. Sure. But is it what God told you to do? Are you making room for supernatural miracles? Or are you operating based on logic, maybe because of fear? Fear of failing, fear of the thing not working out the way you expected it to work out. I want you to evaluate where you are right now. Am I operating based on my own logic, or am I operating based on the word that God gave me? Because we always have to be moving based on a word. We have to. I think about my daughter's birth story and how God told us, he prepared us in advance. You're going to have a home birth. Not only are you going to have a home birth, it's going to be unassisted. So I had a word, I had to hold on to that. When every doctor said, you can't deliver vaginally, you have to have a C-section. This is what it's going to be. This is what it has to be. I had a word to stand on. Because God is the King he is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He is who I answer to. He is who gives me instruction. He is who gives me direction. God's word is final for me. It's his report that I'm going to believe every time. It doesn't matter what the doctors say. It doesn't matter what the experts say. For me, what matters most is, what did the Lord say about it? What did the Lord say about it? It doesn't matter what makes most sense. It doesn't matter what's most logical, what's safe, because in their eyes, me delivering vaginally wasn't safe. Oh, you could have a uterine rupture, which, you know what? I did all the research. Y'all. I like to call myself a professional student, because one thing I'm going to do is find a scholarly article. That's what college taught me. And I had to do it all throughout my master's program. And so I did the research, and I found out the percentage of uterine rupture was smaller than what they were saying it was. And so I had the research to bring back to them when we went to that anatomy scan, and that doctor said, we're going to schedule you for a C-section. And he wasn't even our doctor. This was the first meeting of this man. And he had the nerve to say, you won't be able to do this. I said, yes, I am. I'm going to have a vaginal birth. And you know what he said? He said, yeah, and I can touch the moon with my finger. And I'm like, you have absolutely no idea who my God is. You have absolutely... Look, he literally said, and I could touch the moon with my finger. And it would have been something had we went back to that doctor and testified and said, not only did we have a vaginal birth, but we had an unassisted vaginal birth. And here is our baby, healthy, whole, and well. It would have been something if we went back to show him. But anyway, I say all of that to say, I had a word to stand on. It did not matter what it looked like. It didn't, because the doctors painted a picture. It didn't matter what it looked like. I had to hold on to the word. I had to remain. I needed the faith to stay. I needed the faith to remain, to hold on to that word that God gave me. Elijah had a word to remain at that brook, even when it dried up. Abram needed the faith to not just leave his father's house, but to leave, to go to the land that God showed him, and to remain there, to dwell there. And so I say this to you. Do you have the faith to remain? Do you have the faith to get out of the boat and stay out? If God is calling you out the boat, do you have the faith to get out and to stay out of the boat, to remain out of that boat, to press, to continue on the path that God called you to walk? You need the faith to endure, regardless of what it looks like, regardless of what it feels like. I know there's a lot of warfare going on. I know there's a lot of warfare going on. And sometimes when there's a lot of warfare going on, we make decisions based on what we feel. I feel like, I just feel like this. I just feel like it would be better if this. No, we can't make decisions based on our feelings. What did I say in the last episode? Stop making permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. Stand on the word that God gave you. That Rhema word. That's what he gave me when it came to the unassisted birth. That was a right now word. Stand on the word that God, if you don't have a personal word that he gave you yet, well, I don't really know what God said about this. What does the word say? His physical word, the Bible. What does the Bible say about the situation that you're in right now? About what you're feeling right now, about what you're experiencing and what you're going through. And even ask the Lord. Lord, I need you to give me a personal word. I need you to speak to me personally concerning this. I need a word to stand on, and I need you to speak, Lord. And so that's all I have for you guys today. I pray, that is my prayer. That is my prayer. That you have the faith to remain, regardless of what it looks like. Yes, there may be a famine in the land, but remain because God sent you. He sent you there for a reason. He's not going to send you somewhere and not provide in that place he's sending you. God sent Elijah to the brook and he provided in that place in the middle of a famine. He provided in that place where he sent him. Trust that if God did it before, surely he can do it again. There is nothing too hard for him. There's no ask too small. If he's sending you somewhere, if he's telling you to do something, he's not expecting you to come up with it on your own. He's not expecting you to cover the cost. If he's telling you to do it, if he's sending you somewhere, know that he is going where there is purpose, there is provision. So if he purposed you to be in a specific place, he is going to provide for you in that place. You just have to have the faith to remain. You have to have the faith to remain there. So that is all I have for you guys for today's episode. I pray that it is settled in your hearts and that this was the boost that you needed, the word, the encouragement that you needed to hold on in whatever circumstance, whatever situation you're going through. Hold on. Have the faith to remain. Have the faith to remain. Have the faith to remain in the place that God called you. Have the faith to continue in the thing that God called you to do. Well, God, this just isn't profitable. It's taking up a lot of my time. It doesn't seem like it's gonna pay off. Continue. Because there are many things that you do not see. God is working behind the scenes. You just have to continue to do your part and trust him. Trust him. It's not your job to understand. It's not your job to understand, to try to figure it out. You just have to believe. You just have to trust him. So I love you guys. I love you. And I pray that you do have the faith to remain, that you receive it now. Receive it. Receive it by faith. Receive it now. I'll see you guys in the next episode.